All three girls turned to her, looking at her like she was totally clueless. Violet felt her cheeks burn. What was she missing here? Lily raised an eyebrow. You haven't checked your newsfeed? Newsfeed? Violet echoed, even more confused. Biodome, Lily explained. It's where everyone at Lunars Academy, humans and werewolves, gets all the gossip, trending topics, and school news. It's the official school network run by students. And yeah, you're kind of trending right now. What the hell? Violet's mind raced. This was not how she wanted to find out, whatever this was. Before she could even grab her phone to search for this biodome thing, Alice had hers out. She moved closer to Violet, showing her the screen. With a few taps, Alice searched for the video using Violet's name, and there it was. Violet's eyes widened as the video started playing. It was a clip of Griffin manhandling her. Oh, God! Who the hell recorded that? Violet winced, humiliation twisting in her gut as she watched herself hit the floor, awkward and vulnerable. The thought that the entire school had seen her like that burned in her chest. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor and never be seen again. Is this school really like this? Violet burst out, just picking on people and worshipping jerks like Griffin? Lily's face turned serious. Careful about bad-mouthing the Cardinal Alphas, she warned. The walls have ears here, and you don't want more trouble. Was that monster a Cardinal Alpha? Violet questioned. Yes, and look, you are not even grateful. Hazel sneered from her bed. What's there to be grateful about in being choked by some entitled jerk? Violet retorted, losing her patience. Hey, Violet, what Hazel's trying to say is that you've broken a school record. Violet narrowed her eyes, skeptical. What are you talking about? It's simple. Our Lunars Academy has a point system for academic ranking. Well, socially, it's the same among the students. We have our own hierarchy. And logically, as the last student to enroll, you should be at the bottom, the Omega, the runt of the pack. But here you are on the Luna board, on your very first day. Luna board? Violet was confused again. Yes, Luna board is the ranking system for the girls here. It represents how close a girl is to becoming the Luna of the Cardinal Alphas. Alice declared, tapping the screen. And look, you have been ranked as number 20 on your very first day, after just one encounter with Griffin. Do you even realize how impossible this is? No one has ever shot up the ranks this fast, ever. By making it to number 20, you now have a chance to mingle with the elites. You now have the privilege of associating with the Cardinal Alphas. Whatever. By the way, who exactly are these Cardinal Alphas? Violet asked, her interest piqued. The Terror 4, Lily answered with a wry smile. Most of us would kill to even be seen by them. But unfortunately, only those ranked between 1st and 20th have their attention. Violet shook her head, exasperated. What's so special about the Terror 4 that everyone's losing their minds? Heck, even the name screams trouble. Who said they aren't special? Hazel Sterling whispered. What other alphas have you seen with such godly powers? What powers? Violet stammered. Lily turned to her, eyes wide in disbelief. You really don't know the Cardinal Alphas have powers? Without wasting a second, Alice tapped away on her phone, then held up the screen with a gleam of excitement. Look, these are the 4 Cardinal Alphas. The screen displayed a photo of the so-called Cardinal Alphas altogether. It took Violet roughly 30 seconds to recognize each one, and when she did, a curse slipped from her lips. You've got to be kidding me. Why? What's wrong? Alice straightened up, concern flickering across her face. This guy. Violet jabbed her finger at the green-haired Alpha. He's the idiot who gave me Griffin's necklace, and then Griffin nearly choked me. Violet then pointed to the photograph of Alpha wearing shades. And then this creep just stared at me with his glasses on. You mean Alpha Asher Nightshade? Alice asked. What? Alpha Asher Nightshade? Is he Alpha Asher, our house leader? Violet's voice came out in a croak, dread knotting in her stomach. This can't be happening. Yes, he is Alpha Asher, the leader of our West House. Alice confirmed, solidifying her fears. Damn. Violet's stomach dropped. This guy didn't even help her despite being their so-called leader? How ironic and sad. Completely oblivious to the turmoil brewing inside Violet, Alice continued excitedly, pointing to another figure. And here's Alaric. Isn't he so handsome? Even amid her anxiety, Violet's eyes fell on the picture, and her breath hitched. It was him, the guy she'd met at the infirmary. Alice continued. These Cardinal Alphas were all born at the exact same time. Some people say it was a major celestial event. Rumor has it, this was the moon goddess's way of clapping back after humans committed mass murder against the she-wolves, wiping out almost 90% of them. Cardinals were given their powers to bring humanity to its knees, get revenge, and reclaim their spot as leaders. Violet was supposed to laugh off the stories, but a shiver crawled down her spine. If humans knew what the werewolves were planning, why let them get so powerful? Why pretend they were equals when they were clearly predators? She didn't have the answers now, but she also knew this wasn't the place to ask. Alice swiped to a solo picture of Griffin. Violet's jaw clenched, the memory of his assault still fresh, but Alice grinned. Look, Griffin Hale, you're handsome brute. Violet shot her a withering look. He's the Alpha of the East, Alice continued. Crazy strong, stronger than most werewolves. He can smash through anything, and his senses make him lethal. If he's mad, he can knock you out with a shockwave punch. Violet rubbed her neck where he grabbed her. If that was true, she was lucky to be breathing. Alice swiped again. This one is Roman Draven, Alpha of the South. He can shapeshift into any animal. Hawk, lion, wolf, you name it. Super versatile in battle and stealth. He's also a total flirt, but girls eat it up. Violet grimaced. Ew, thanks. Alice smirked. Also, Roman and Griffin hate each other. Violet realized that might be the reason they were fighting today. Next was Asher Nightshade, Alpha of the West. Asher is, Alice started. The last Alpha you want to meet. He's a total psycho. He's a mindbender. He can plant thoughts, erase memories, basically puppet master you. That's why he wears the shades. You need to keep away from him especially. Violet shivered. Oh yeah, she knew there was a lot behind those shades. Right. She'd avoid him like the plague. And last, our charming prince, Alaric, Alice said, holding up a candid photo. Alpha of the North, Alice said. He controls lightning, EMP-level bolts, paralysis, storms, you name it. Violet blinked, and the electric jolt she felt while close to him made sense now. Alpha Alaric is brilliant, too, Lily added, but his temper, deadly. Rumors say that he has been experimenting on something dangerous related to the hearts and electric charges. On hearing it, Violet's brief interest in Alaric almost vanished. Oh, Violet grinned. Any alpha you like? What? Violet blinked. You're in the top 20 now, Lily said. They'll see you as an equal. But Hazel scoffed. Please, they're all practically taken. Yeah, but no one's official Luna yet, Alice shot back. Hazel rolled her eyes. You all don't know, but this is all arranged. Autumn is probably already locked in for the one who emerges as the King Alpha, and the rest, they will probably be married as per family deals. Violet here has no chance. Violet's patience finally snapped. All right, enough. It's not like I am even interested. She looked each of them in the eye. I am so sick of the ridiculous drama at this school. Alice gasped, offended. Ridiculous drama? Do you know how lucky you'd be if you caught the eye of a Cardinal Alpha? Enough! Violet's sharp tone made Alice flinch. I appreciate you filling me in on the school gossip, Violet continued. But that's all it is to me, gossip. I didn't even want to come to this academy, but now that I am here, I don't want to be part of some pointless tradition. My focus is only to study and build a future for myself. I won't let anyone pressure me into joining in on this nonsense. Violet's roommates were speechless. A heavy silence filled the room. Violet didn't wait for any response. Turning her back to them, she lay down on her bed and closed her eyes, shutting them out. Sleep came quickly, her body exhausted and her mind still buzzing from the day's craziness. That night, Violet's life changed. As somewhere in her sleep, a certain alpha waited to give her a private welcome into his pack. The dreams started. Violet stirred in her sleep, strong arms wrapped around her. It felt so good she instinctively snuggled closer, murmuring softly. She'd never felt this safe and secure, and his scent, totally intoxicating. She chuckled low in his chest as she nuzzled his neck, her nose brushing his skin. She moaned softly, pressing closer, and he laughed. This wasn't right. Violet suddenly understood what was going on. It was Asher Nightshade messing with her head. But how? She hadn't looked directly into his eyes, had she? A million questions raced through her mind, but she knew she had to snap out of this dream first. She remembered a book about dream manipulation. The only way out of such manipulative dreams was to put yourself in danger. The 4-story drop outside her window should do the trick, she thought. She was ready to jump. From her window, the ground looked miles away. For a second, she hesitated. What if she actually died? Well, if that happened, at least this nightmare would be over. Anything was better than another second with this psycho. She jumped. The fall felt like forever, the wind rushing past her face. She braced for impact. But when she opened her eyes, she was back in Asher's room, perfectly fine. Oh no. What was happening? Why was she being targeted? She hadn't even done anything to get his attention. She glared at Asher, pure hatred coursing through her. This was all his fault. Furious, she stormed toward him, ready to make him pay. Other students might worship him, but she'd rather die than let him get away with this. Remembering Griffin's move, she grabbed Asher's neck. What the hell have you done to me? She snarled, her voice shaking with anger. Everything had happened so fast, twisting her reality and leaving her mind spinning. And then he grinned. He actually grinned, like she was some kind of entertainment. That smug, infuriating smirk made her blood boil. She tightened her grip on his neck, wanting him to know she wasn't playing games. That's when things got weird. The scene shimmered, like a dream changing. And when Violet blinked, she was on top of Asher, straddling him on the bed. All the blood drained from her face. This was Asher's world. He was in control, pulling all the strings. She tried to get off him, but he said, Calm down, baby. A wave of calmness washed over her, her body relaxing against her will. Oh no, how do I get out of this manipulation, this dream? Violet wanted to freak out, to fight, but it was like all the fight had been sucked out of her. Asher adjusted, sitting up and holding Violet in his arms like they were a couple, not two people who'd just been battling for control. A blush crept up her cheeks when she realized she was sitting right on top of him. She was disgusted by this manipulative jerk, but her body wasn't playing along. It was drawn to his intense pull. She clung to what little control she had left. It wasn't hard to figure out what Asher was thinking, not with that dark, hungry look in his eyes like he wanted to swallow her whole. They'd met only once that day, and this was the longest they'd ever talked. Yet here he was, looking at her like he'd been waiting for her forever. Violet's feelings were all tangled up, a mess of confusion. Just as she was about to say something sassy and break whatever spell he was trying to cast, Asher spoke. You are finally here, my purple queen. What? Violet choked out, completely thrown. Not again. Confusion washed over her. Asher was again talking like they'd... What? Violet choked out, completely thrown. Not again. Confusion washed over her. Asher was again talking like they'd known each other forever, but she knew they hadn't. For a while, I thought you weren't going to show up. You know, I was considering how to come get you. You have no idea how much work it took to bring you here, little purple. Violet was stunned. Do I know you? Violet finally asked, finding her voice. Yes, my purple queen. You called, and I answered. What? Violet blurted out, totally lost. What did he mean? Asher's eyes locked onto hers, dark and intense. He didn't blink. Then he quoted her own words back to her. Special skills. 1, giving amazing services. 2, giving a killer lap dance. And 3, you haven't seen anything until you've seen me in bed. Ice shot through Violet's veins. Her face went white. No, there was no way. This can't be true. What the hell? It was this creepy guy who accepted her and sent all those letters for her? Watching her shocked reaction, Asher grinned like a predator who just cornered its prey. We are in bed right now, my purple queen. He purred. And now is the time to demonstrate your special skills. Just start already. I'm waiting. Oh no, Violet whispered. She lied on her application, hoping it would keep her out. She never imagined that lie would be the very thing to pull her in and bring her the greatest troubles of her life. Violet was nothing like she mentioned in the application. But now this dangerous alpha himself was demanding she play the part she made up. How will Violet survive this? For a good minute, Violet cursed like a sailor, a skill Nancy had once warned her about. Your mouth will get you in trouble one day, Nancy had teased. But growing up in the hood, what did she expect? Honestly, though, this situation deserved every curse word she could throw at the jerk who'd messed with her life. Regret burned deep. The signs had been there, staring at her in the face, but she'd been too focused on escaping her life to see them. No decent school would have accepted her ridiculous application, yet they did. The scholarship? A total trap. And now here she was, practically in the lap, given their current position, of one of Lunaris Academy's resident psychos. The most dangerous one, it seemed. Her first instinct was to jump off him, but Asher's power held her like a wall. She froze mid-move, accidentally rubbing against him. Shoo! Asher groaned, his hands gripping her hips like she might disappear. He was breathing hard. I might be in your head, but this feels pretty real to me. And it could be real for you, too. His voice dropped to a low, seductive whisper as he ran a finger down her spine, watching her skin tingle. If you let me. His eyes locked on hers, a twisted invitation in their depths. But the icy glare Violet shot back said she'd sooner punch him than play his sick games. Where am I? Violet demanded. My room, he answered casually. I mean, where's my body? She snapped, frustration boiling over. After her window dive landed her right back here, unharmed, she knew this wasn't real life. This was all some messed up mind trip. Oh, Asher smirked. To be precise, your body's in your room, while your mind's here with me. Violet frowned. I didn't look you in the eyes, so how am I here? What did you do? Asher chuckled. It's funny watching you think you've got me all figured out. Besides, what kind of gentleman would I be if I spilled my secrets? Violet rolled her eyes. More like a coward. The smile vanished from his face, replaced by a darkness that made her heart jump. For a second, she thought she'd gone too far. But then, his cocky grin returned, as if the chilling moment hadn't happened. Don't sweat it, Asher said, his confidence making her stomach twist. You'll figure it out, Violet Purple. The way he said her name, slow and deliberate, reminded her he was the reason she was even at this school. She'd actually believed Lunaris had seen something special in her, that her blunt, rough around the edges application had caught their eye. Knowing the truth now felt like a punch to the gut. What do you want with me? Violet asked, staying put this time. She noticed he liked it when she squirmed, and she wasn't giving him the satisfaction. Violet had learned from the best. Nancy had pulled this tactic countless times. And even though being this close to Asher sent a rush of heat through her, Violet held her ground. He'd started this game, and if he wanted to play, she was ready to finish it. What do you think I want from you? Asher echoed, his voice laced with amusement. Violet kept her face neutral, refusing to let him see he'd gotten to her. I don't know how long this little game of ours is going to last, but just FYI, I have classes today. I'd hate to doze off on my first day after this little rendezvous. She deliberately made it sound like their encounter was no big deal. Asher's lips twitched, clearly entertained by her defiance. Finally, he got to the point. Be mine, my purple flower, he said, his tone full of arrogance, like he was offering her the world. Be my queen. Rule with me. Rule with us. Even though she half expected something like this, the sheer audacity of it still shook her. Violet's initial shock quickly turned into a sneer. In your dreams, Asher Nightshade. Good thing this is my dream then. So you're mine now, Violet Purple. What? The blood drained from Violet's face as his words hit her. Oh, hell no. That's not what she began. But before she could finish or take it back, Asher's grip tightened. The warmth of his hand felt like a brand on her skin, and her heart started hammering so hard she swore he could hear it. The air thickened as his hand moved lower, his fingers tracing her skin inch by inch, each touch sending shivers down her spine. Violet realized she was holding her breath. Why, though? She couldn't tell if she was more terrified or turned on by the thrill of his hand moving so close to her core. As its fingers grazed her inner thigh, the tension coiled tighter inside her, making her heart skip a beat. She couldn't believe she was letting this happen, but part of her wanted to see how far Asher would push it. Besides, it was just a dream. What was she scared of? But just as Violet thought he was going to touch her, he stopped. Their eyes locked, the air crackling between them, neither one willing. Scared of. But just as Violet thought he was going to touch her, he stopped. Their eyes locked, the air crackling between them, neither one willing to give in. Then, a maddeningly slow smile spread across Asher's face. It was the smirk of a guy who knew he was in complete control. I think I'll save that for next time, he murmured, his hand lingering just long enough to send a final jolt of heat through her before pulling away. He was clearly enjoying the effect he was having on her. There will be no next time, jerk. Now let me go, she spat. Asher raised an eyebrow at her tone. You do realize you're the only one who can talk to me like that and get away with it? If you want to kill me, just do it. I'm not begging. No, sweet Violet, he purred. Why would I go to all this trouble to bring you here just to kill you? Why would you even think that? Then what's your game? She demanded, suspicion blazing in her eyes. What king in his right mind would kill his queen? He said, leaning closer to inhale her scent like it was some kind of addictive drug. You're precious to me, my purple flower. Okay, major creep alert, Violet muttered, edging away. I'm done here. Send me back, now. This was all kinds of messed up, and she needed to get back to the real world. Sure thing, Asher replied smoothly. But first, I need a little something to remember you by. Before Violet could even process what he meant, Asher reached behind her head, and a soft snip echoed in the silence. Looking down, she saw a lock of her purple hair resting in his palm. You! Violet exploded. Pure, unadulterated rage surged through her. Nobody messed with her hair. She wanted to strangle him, right there and then. But before she could lunge at him, Asher just laughed. Later, my queen, he said, and Violet felt like she was free-falling into a bottomless pit. She woke up with a gasp, drenched in sweat. The early morning sun was just starting to peek through the blinds, and her roommates were still out cold. She bolted to the bathroom, her heart pounding in her chest. She needed a minute to catch her breath, to convince herself it had all been just some crazy nightmare. Checking herself in the mirror, she was relieved to see her clothes were where they should be. Okay, so it was a dream. Still, a nagging thought lingered. How did Asher know what she was wearing underneath? But that worry quickly vanished when she spotted something way more disturbing. Her hand flew to her hair. A chunk was missing. She ran her fingers over the jagged edge, a cold dread washing over her. No way. Violet stumbled back from the mirror like it had suddenly caught fire. So it hadn't been a dream. But that made zero sense. Asher was playing mind games with her, messing with her head. That had to be it. This whole dream thing, the missing hair, was all some twisted way to freak her out, to make her question what was real and what wasn't. Seriously, you scared me half to death, Violet yelped, landing on the floor with a thud. She'd been balancing precariously on one foot, wrestling with her sock, when Alice suddenly appeared. What the heck, Alice? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Alice squeaked, reaching out a hand to help her up. Violet shot her a look.
अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ कि मेरा पूरा ब्यूटी कलेक्शन है सिर्फ 199 का, तो आप यकीन करोगे?
Curdled milk, and Alice quickly retreated, tucking her hands behind her back. Violet could be seriously intimidating. Seeing the fear in Alice's eyes, Violet sighed and softened her expression. Alice reminded her of a stray cat she'd taken in once, a scrawny little thing that looked like it might keel over any second. Violet hadn't had much herself back then, but she shared what little food she had. Sometimes even skipping meals so the cat could eat. The cat, which she named Stray, had become attached to her, and they had developed a close bond, meeting every day at their usual spot. Then, one day, Stray vanished. The sick feeling in Violet's gut lasted for days as she searched everywhere, terrified that something awful had happened. She was consumed with regret, wishing she'd taken Stray in properly, even if it meant Nancy blowing a gasket. Their trailer was already cramped, and an animal would have been chaos. Plus, Nancy despised animals. Nothing, not even the cutest puppy, could melt her icy heart. Violet knew life had been tough on Nancy, leaving no room for love, not even a harmless little creature. 2 weeks later, the truth came out. Stray wasn't a stray at all. The cat had a family, and had simply wandered too far from home. That was the last time Violet remembered crying. She'd fought to keep Stray, but she couldn't compete with the cat's real family. The father had been trying to pay her for looking after their pet. Violet refused the money, but Nancy had happily pocketed it. In Nancy's words, at least Violet's stupidity had been good for something. Violet still remembered the smug look on the daughter's face as she petted Stray, just like Violet had weeks before. If looks could kill, that girl would have been Swiss cheese. Rage had boiled inside Violet, and for a second she actually considered murder. Luckily Nancy had dragged her away before she did anything crazy. The worst part was that Stray hadn't seemed to care at all. The cat had nestled into the girl without a second thought, as if everything Violet had done, all their time together, had meant nothing. Violet had cried herself to sleep for days, heartbroken. It wasn't until Nancy slapped her and gave her a lecture that she finally snapped out of it. Her longing for love and a real family had made her cling to that cat. She thought it would be her and Stray against the world, but the cat had taught her a brutal lesson. Even family could walk away without a backward glance, just like her own family had. It might sound dramatic, but for a love-starved 10-year-old, it had left a scar. It shaped how she saw the world and how she dealt with people. Violet had friends, sure, but she kept them at arm's length, close enough for fun, but not close enough to hurt her if things went south. That's why she wasn't about to let this seemingly friendly roommate get too close. At a school like Lunaris, everyone was probably just waiting for a chance to backstab you, and Violet wasn't giving anyone that opportunity. Taking a deep breath, she toned down the intensity and asked, "What's up?" as she tugged awkwardly at her jacket. Even though uniforms weren't her thing, she had to admit the Lunaris school uniform was pretty awesome. It fit her like a glove, hugging her curves perfectly. It was just the stupid jacket she couldn't stand. "I was hoping we could get breakfast together," Alice said cheerfully, watching Violet wrestle with the jacket. When Violet ripped it off and almost threw it across the room, Alice's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, no, you don't," Alice scolded, picking up the jacket from where Violet had tossed it onto the bed. "Principal Jameson would roast you alive if you showed up with an incomplete uniform, not to mention, dock your points." Violet grumbled. Those Cardinal Alphas and those rich, spoiled brats don't seem to care about that." "They don't because they have thousands of points to spare. You, on the other hand, just barely made it into the top 20. If you want to stay there or climb higher, you'll need every point you can get. It's paradise if you reach the top 10. They're the elite of the elite, and practically untouchable." "I don't care about their stupid ranking," Violet snapped. "Well, I do," Alice said shamelessly. "If you make it to the top, then I'll be your sidekick, picking up whatever scraps you toss my way." "Alice, I already told you Violet's words were cut off as Alice yanked the jacket tighter, making her choke. "Oops, sorry," Alice said with a goofy grin, though the apology felt fake. "You were saying?" Violet didn't answer, not when Alice still had control over the jacket and could practically strangle her if she said the wrong thing. Apparently the Cardinal Alphas weren't the only psychos the school was hiding. Not that she was naming names. Once satisfied with her work, Alice smoothed her hands over the jacket and asked in a deceptively sweet voice, "Tell me, Violet, do you want to just chill here in peace?" The words were on the tip of Violet's tongue, but the shock from earlier kept her silent. She only managed a stiff nod. "And you need this school's currency, power. With enough of it, you'll be left alone to do whatever you want. Or maybe I'll just lie low and be left alone," Violet thought sarcastically. "Do you understand?" Alice's voice was sugary, but with a sharp edge. "Yes," Violet managed to squeak. "Good." Alice clapped her hands, her cheerful demeanor returning so fast it nearly gave Violet whiplash. "Come on then." Alice looped her arm through Violet's. Let's grab some breakfast. And without waiting for a reply, she dragged Violet along. Violet could only follow, her heart pounding in her chest. It was clear now she'd have to sleep with one eye open if she wanted to survive in this room. One bad night, and someone might actually use a jacket to finish her off in her sleep. If Violet had thought Catherine was a walking encyclopedia, then Alice was the internet. She never stopped talking. Violet made a mental note to keep her secrets locked down tight, because who knew whom Alice might spill the beans to? Even though everything Alice said seemed to be useful information about Lunaris, Violet wasn't taking any chances. Just like her, everyone from Westhouse was heading to the dining hall. And just like her first day, the other students were staring at her, making her skin crawl. Violet was used to it by now, though. She tuned them out and focused on Alice's stories, mentally filing away the important bits. Oh, Hazel Sterling. Alice changed the subject as they stepped outside, joining the flow of students. Don't hate her too much. She's not as bad as you think. Violet frowned. It's the fact that you think I'm hung up on dumb stuff that bugs me. I didn't come to Lunaris Academy to, yeah, blah, blah, you're heartless and don't care about anyone. I get it. Alice interrupted, already having Violet's personality pegged after just one day. She can deny it all she wants, but Hazel sees you as a threat. Probably jealous, too. Seriously? Why? Violet's voice rose, the memory of yesterday's incident flaring up her anger again. I already told her what to do if she's so jealous. Chill, Violet. Let me fill you in. Alice started. In case you haven't noticed, Lunaris Academy only accepts the rich, the brilliant, and the well-connected. The Sterlings may be new money, but when Hazel first applied, she got rejected. Can you imagine how embarrassing that was? Even as an elite, she didn't make the cut. Now the rumor is, her parents basically bought her a scholarship, just to get her in. Then you show up the first day, and land in the top 20-something no one else has ever done. Hazel thinks she would have done even better than you, especially if she had that run-in with Griffin. Wow, I knew she liked getting choked by Griffin. Tell her she won't miss the next opportunity if she hangs around me. Violet replied sarcastically. Secretly, though, Violet knew that with her current plans, getting choked by Griffin might be the least of her worries. Trouble always seemed to find her. That is, if she even stayed at Lunaris. She planned to talk to Principal Jameson about canceling her scholarship, if she could find a free moment between classes. The schedule was crazy. Alice sighed, realizing she wouldn't get any sympathy from Violet, but she wasn't giving up. Under Violet's tough exterior, she sensed a softer side. Violet just hid it well. Getting to the dining hall was another long trek. It was closer to the main school building than the dorms. Even though Westhouse had a vending machine, Violet decided to take full advantage of the dining hall. Alice rushed ahead to hold the door open, dramatically sweeping her arm. Welcome to the Platinum Court, my lady. Violet stopped, raising an eyebrow. Platinum Court? That's what us Lunaris kids call the dining hall. Alice winked. You'll see why when you get inside. Violet didn't have time to question Alice's over-the-top description. There was already a line of students behind them, grumbling for them to move. Alice held the door open a little too long, letting it swing shut almost in the next student's face. The kid swore under his breath while Alice just grinned, not sorry at all. Violet shook her head. Alice could be such a goofball. But then she stepped inside and froze, taking in the dining hall. Okay, Alice hadn't been exaggerating about the Platinum Court. This place was seriously impressive. The Lunaris Academy cafeteria was huge and fancy, just like everything else at the school. Golden sunlight streamed through giant arched windows, lighting up the cream and gold walls. The marble floor was so shiny it looked like a mirror, reflecting the chandeliers sparkling overhead. The whole place felt super luxurious. But that's where the nice part ended. Underneath all the fancy decorations was a strict social order. Downstairs, rows of polished mahogany tables were for the regular students, humans, and lower-ranked werewolves who hadn't made a name for themselves yet. Compared to Violet's old school, this was pretty swanky. But their silverware and plates were plain and simple, nothing special. This section was also super noisy and crowded, with everyone crammed together, and teachers and older kids watching them like hawks. Even here, there was a divide. Humans sat on one side, werewolves on the other, though some kids mixed together. But both groups were at the bottom of the pool. From downstairs, you could see where the real VIPs sat. A fancy staircase with gold-trimmed railings curved up a raised platform, the elite section, just for the top students. They sat in comfy individual chairs around small tables with velvet tablecloths, eating off fancy china with real silver. They acted like they were too cool for school, looking down at the regular kids, sometimes with smug grins or sneers. The noise downstairs didn't bother them at all. They were way too important for that. Right in the middle of the elite section were 4 special chairs, bigger and fancier than the rest. They were made of dark wood with the school's logo in gold on the back. Even without Alice saying anything, Violet knew those were for the Cardinal Alphas. Nobody, not even the top 20 students, dared sit there. It was like an unspoken rule. Those chairs were a symbol of who ran the school, and everyone looked at them with a mix of awe, fear, and respect. Violet had been impressed at first, but now she was frowning. A place meant for eating had become a way to show off who was better than who. Every time you looked up or down, you were reminded of who had power and who didn't. The whole thing felt suffocating. This place was a social minefield. Violet watched the scene unfold in the cafeteria, a knot forming in her stomach. Everyone was so obsessed with status and power. While some kids might think she was lucky to have scored so high in the rankings, seeing this whole setup made her realize it was more like a curse. Being at the top didn't feel like a win. It felt like a trap. Absolute power corrupts, and Violet knew that if she kept playing this game, it was only a matter of time before she became just another cog in the Lunaris Academy machine, just as bad as everyone else. Violet and Alice stood in the breakfast line. Alice chattered away, oblivious to the fact that Violet's mind was miles away. From her spot, Violet could only see part of the 4th rounds, as she'd started to call them. But their presence was heavy, and she was incredibly relieved they were empty. After last night's weird dream with Asher, she wasn't sure she could handle seeing any of the Cardinal Alphas, especially Griffin. Turns out, they weren't just intense. They were full of themselves, too. Who needed thrones in a school cafeteria? Them, apparently. Like they were the kings of Lunaris Academy or something. At least there wasn't a self-proclaimed queen. Violet would have lost it completely. She could see the elite students upstairs, mostly girls, acting all superior, while everyone else downstairs was getting their own food. Violet noticed some kids actually serving the elites. She remembered Alice saying she wanted to be Violet's lackey. Was this what she meant? This school was seriously messing with Violet's head. Earth to Violet! Alice snapped her fingers in front of Violet's face. The line's moving. Violet realized she'd zoned out and left a gap between herself and Alice, causing some grumbling from the people behind her. She saw someone trying to cut in, but she quickly closed the gap, giving a kid a death stare. He muttered something under his breath, but she ignored him. She was not in the mood for drama. Then, out of nowhere, some girl just waltzed past the entire line, right to the front. She grabbed a plate and started piling on food from the buffet like she owned the place. Violet waited for someone to say something, anything, but no. Everyone just acted like this was normal. Why aren't they doing anything? Violet asked, confused. Be quiet! Alice hissed, her eyes wide. Seriously, why? Violet whispered fiercely. I space out for a second, and these jerks behind me? She gestured to the impatient students. Try to cut in line, but she just comes in and takes whatever she wants and nobody cares. That's because it's Hope, Alice said, like that explained everything. So, it was Hope. Oh my God, Violet, keep your voice down. You're gonna get us in trouble. Alice said, looking around nervously. Alice's serious tone made Violet chill out a bit, though she was still curious. Fine, fill me in. What's the deal? She asked quietly. Alice gave her a look. You didn't even bother looking up the top 20, did you? Nope, why would I? It's not my problem. I don't care who they are, or what special treatment they get for being bullies. Besides, Violet had been kind of preoccupied with that bizarre dream encounter with Asher. Alice facepalmed. Seriously? She muttered. Violet almost felt sorry for her, but Alice was the one obsessed with the school's social ladder. If it had been anything actually important, Violet wouldn't have cared less. Just then, Hope strolled past, tray balanced perfectly as she headed for the stairs, up to the VIP section. Violet's eyes narrowed. Hope's skirt was way shorter than allowed. Did Principal Jameson not notice? Or did Hope's immunity extend to the dress code, too? What rank is she? Violet asked. She's not in the top 20, Alice replied. Violet raised an eyebrow. Then who is she, and why is she up there? She's Autumn's, personal assistant. Personal assistant? Yeah, like a lackey, servant, gopher, whatever. Who's Autumn? Number 1. Violet's ears perked up. You mean number 1 on the Luna board? Alice nodded seriously. Yep, Autumn Carson, number 1 elite student, and the only pure-blooded she-wolf in the whole school. That stopped Violet short. She didn't care about school politics, but this was different. A pure-blooded she-wolf? They were legendary, practically worshipped, almost extinct too. Alphas would practically kill for a chance to marry one. Marrying a pure-blood meant the possibility of having a true werewolf baby, not one with diluted genes from a human werewolf pairing. It wasn't hard to spot Autumn. Violet followed Hope's path until she set the tray down at the table, where a girl with striking silver hair sat. The silver practically glowed under the dining hall lights, and Violet couldn't tear her eyes away. Autumn had this intense magnetic presence. Before Violet could look away, Alice whispered, and get this, I heard Autumn's supposed to marry one of the Cardinal Alphas after graduation. That was a bombshell. Autumn was marrying one of the Cardinal Alphas? Which one? Violet didn't even understand why she cared. It wasn't her business, but she had to know. As if she had felt their stares, Autumn turned and locked eyes with Violet. Autumn Carson was stunning. Her vivid blue eyes were so captivating that they could make anyone stop in their tracks. Her heart-shaped face, pointed nose, and full lips were totally alluring. But beneath the charm, Violet sensed a coldness. Like Autumn's beauty was just a mask. It wasn't just her looks, it was her posture, the way she held herself, the way she looked down on everyone. To Autumn, Violet was nothing. Autumn's gaze felt like a challenge, as if she'd expected Violet to back down. Alice, noting the tension, whispered urgently, Look away, Violet! Don't engage her! But Violet never backed down. She wasn't scared of some queen bee who ruled by intimidation. So what if Autumn was a pure-blooded she-wolf? Big deal. It wasn't like it was some special talent. Violet knew the real reason purebloods were so prized, their ability to have lots of pure-blooded babies. It was all about boosting the werewolf population. Hope must have caught Autumn's attention because Autumn was the first to look away. That small victory gave Violet a flicker of satisfaction. She decided right then that she didn't like Autumn, and it wasn't because Autumn was supposed to marry one of the Cardinal Alphas. Violet honestly didn't care. She kind of hoped it was Asher. Maybe then he'd leave her alone. No, Violet disliked Autumn because she knew girls like her, the ones who acted all angelic while hiding their true selves. They were wolves in sheep's clothing. Let's go, Alice urged, pulling Violet away before things escalated. Alice swore Violet was going to give her a heart attack one of these days. The line moved quickly. When it was their turn, Violet's eyes widened at the food spread on the long, polished table. The luxury was unreal. Each steaming dish promised a hot, fresh meal. If anything could convince her to stay at Lunaris, it would be the food. It was a total food paradise, way better than anything she had back home. Golden scrambled eggs, crispy smoked bacon, honey glazed sausages, fluffy pancakes, waffles with fresh berries, croissants, danishes, muffins, and a mountain of fresh fruit. It was overwhelming. Even if she took a little of everything, she wouldn't be able to finish it all. She settled for scrambled eggs with herbs, a couple of bacon strips, and some hash browns, plus a warm croissant. Alice caught up, her plate piled high. She gave Violet a look. Is that all you're taking? Violet nodded. Alice stared, then glanced around. If you're worried about the guys judging you, don't be. Alphas like girls who can eat. Look around. Violet followed Alice's gaze, and her jaw dropped. The other students' plates were overflowing, especially the werewolves. Their portions were gigantic, like mountain ranges about to topple over. Of course, Violet said, watching a werewolf practically inhale a plate piled high with food. It made sense that they needed the extra fuel to keep up with their supercharged metabolisms. Still, it was crazy to see. I didn't take this much food because of the alphas. Yeah, I get it, Alice said, rolling her eyes. But you still gotta eat more, girl. Before Violet could argue, Alice dumped a scoop of roasted potatoes onto her plate. Violet let it slide. Those crispy edges looked way too good to pass up. She grabbed her tray and made a beeline for a table, hoping to escape before Alice decided to add anything else. But she didn't get far. Alice grabbed her arm. Where do you think you're going? Your spot's upstairs. She pointed toward the balcony where the elites were eating. Yeah, help that. Violet glanced at the privileged students above. I think I'll eat down here unless I want to get a major case of indigestion. No, Violet, I don't think. Alice started, but Violet was already heading for a table on the lower level. She pulled out a chair and sat down, ready to dig in. But the second she sat, the chatter around her died down. Violet looked up, totally unbothered. Please, she said to the staring students. Don't mind me. Keep talking. But instead of going back to their conversations, the entire floor went silent. Every single eye was on Violet, like she'd just broken some major rule. Ugh, great, Violet muttered. Indigestion was definitely on the menu now. What had she done in the past life to deserve this? Lost in the deliciousness of a warm croissant, Violet briefly closed her eyes, a soft moan escaping her lips. This was the life. But the moment was shattered by Alice's panicked cry. Look out! Just in time, Violet dodged a spray of food and drink, her breakfast crashing to the floor. What the hell? She snapped, looking up to see a girl glaring down at her, pure disgust twisting her features. So this is what they replaced me with? The girl spat, pointing at Violet. She doesn't even know the freaking rules. It clicked. This was the girl whose spot on the Luna board Violet had taken number 20. Great. And for once, Violet was completely innocent. The entire cafeteria froze, eyes glued to the scene. Phones came out, ready to record the drama. Everyone expected a fight. But Violet calmly brushed croissant crumbs off her clothes. The girl was ready to brawl, but Violet simply turned her back. The ultimate diss. It screamed, "You're not even worth my time." Violet knew the elite students upstairs were watching, waiting for her to snap. She wouldn't give them satisfaction. If she played it cool, maybe they'd find her boring and leave her alone. Then she could go back to her anonymous life at the bottom of the food chain. Bliss. Hey, I'm talking to you. Don't ignore me, you daughter of a whore, the girl shrieked. That stopped Violet cold. All pretense of calm vanished. That insult was a line she wouldn't let anyone cross. This girl needed a lesson. The girl's confident smirk faltered as Violet turned, a storm brewing in her eyes. In a flash, Violet was standing right in front of her, the girl scrambling into a fighting stance. Violet raised an eyebrow. So she thinks she can fight? Good. These preppy princesses had no idea how a street kid like her threw down. What's your name? Violet asked, momentarily pausing the inevitable showdown. The girl blinked, thrown off. Paige. She started. Then her face twisted in outrage. Wait, you don't even know my name, and you stole my spot? The cafeteria went silent. Nobody, not even the lunch ladies, dared to make a sound. Violet poured gasoline on the fire. Sorry, I don't usually bother learning the names of people beneath me. You! Paige's eyes blazed. She swung. But Violet saw it coming a mile away. She dodged, grabbed Paige's arm, and twisted it behind her back. Paige yelped. How dare you! You didn't know who I am! Paige shrieked, struggling to break free. Violet ignored her, grabbed her hair, and forced her to face the crowd. Listen up, everyone, Violet announced, her voice ringing through the silent cafeteria. I don't care who you are, where you're from, or what fancy privileges you have at this school, she continued, locking eyes with Autumn, the silver-haired girl whose attention she now captured. I came here to learn, and that's what I'm gonna do. I know my place, and I'm not trying to climb the social ladder. So I'll stay in my lane, and you stay in yours. No drama, no fights. Just leave me alone, and we're good. Violet's voice hardened. Oh, and one more thing. No name calling, especially the W word. She grinned, all teeth. That one really ticks me off. But Paige didn't get the memo. You're nothing but a whore, bitch. You think we don't know? That was it. Violet dragged Paige to the spilled food and shoved her face right into the mess. Paige sputtered and thrashed, but Violet held her down. Gasps echoed around them. This was definitely not what they expected. Where I come from, we don't waste food, Violet said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. And if it falls on the floor, you pick it up, just like you're doing now. Paige finally stopped struggling, and Violet let go. The girl was sobbing, her face and hair covered in food. Violet stood up straight and scanned the room, daring anyone to challenge her. Her gaze lingered on the elite students, all watching with rapt attention. Suddenly, one of the girls in the elite section stood up and started clapping slowly together, until the whole elite section was applauding. The rest of the cafeteria followed suit, and the room erupted in applause. Violet should have felt triumphant, but a wave of dread washed over her. This wasn't normal applause. There was a strange look of pride on their faces. They were accepting her. Somehow this twisted showdown had become some sort of initiation, and she'd passed. No. Violet's blood ran cold. This wasn't what she wanted. She didn't want to be one of them. Heart pounding, Violet bolted. She had to get out of there. She needed to find Principal Jameson and drop out of this nightmare today. As she ran, she saw the other students swarming Paige, recording her humiliation. Violet felt a flicker of pity, almost. But Paige had totally brought this on herself, dragging her background into the fight, and Violet had way bigger fish to fry than some petty ex-top 20 princess. Violet didn't waste a second heading to the administrative floor. She ignored Alice, who asked where she was going. Alice didn't need to know, especially not if she tried to stop her. The receptionist glanced up, then basically ignored Violet, her eyes glued to her phone. Gunfire blasted from some movie she was watching, loud enough to drown out the office sounds. Violet couldn't tell if she was supposed to go in or get lost. She chose to go in. Violet knocked firmly on the office door. No answer. She knocked again, wondering if Principal Jameson was even there. It wasn't 8 a.m. yet. She left the dining hall planning to get things sorted before the first period, hopefully leaving school after getting dismissed. Everything was perfectly planned. When no one answered again, Violet frowned. Maybe that's why the receptionist ignored her. A heads up would have been nice. What a jerk. Frustrated, Violet turned to leave, then clearly heard, "Come in." Her heart raced. This was it. She'd walk in, demand they revoke her scholarship, and Principal Jameson would do it. Violet had made up her mind. She walked in, heart pounding. She saw Principal Jameson sitting in her executive chair, back turned. For a second, Violet thought something looked different, like her build was bigger, but she shrugged it off, figuring it was just her imagination. Who else would be in the principal's chair? Ignoring the weird feeling, Violet straightened up. She cleared her throat, gathering her courage. "Principal Jameson, I need to talk to you." Principal Jameson didn't answer for over a minute. An awkward silence hung in the air. Figuring she might as well just come out with it, Violet dropped the bomb. "I don't want to go to school here anymore, Principal Jameson. Please revoke my scholarship and give it to someone else." There, it was out. Violet felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Now, there was no way the principal could ignore her. The chair started to swivel. Violet held her breath. But when the chair finally turned around, the face she saw made her blood run cold. "You have got to be kidding me." It wasn't Principal Jameson. It was Asher freaking Nightshade. Sitting in her chair. Violet's mind raced. Shock turned to disbelief, then anger, then fear, then even more fear, as her survival instincts kicked in. This was Asher, and he wasn't even wearing his sunglasses. His intense amber eyes locked onto hers. Creepy, reptilian, and way too focused. Violet swallowed. "Do tell me, Violet." Asher Nightshade finally spoke, his voice disturbingly calm, masking the storm brewing beneath. "What's this I hear about you wanting to ditch the scholarship?" The question hung in the air, heavy as a judge's gavel, and Violet gulped. This was the first time Asher had spoken to her without a nickname. Yep, she'd totally messed up. Before Asher could even blink, Violet was ready to run, adrenaline pumping. She had to get out. But his voice sliced through her thoughts, sharp and commanding. "Don't move." Violet froze. "Relax." Just one word, and all the tension drained away. Violet stood there, strangely comfortable, as if hanging out with an old friend. Moments ago, she wanted to run from this devil. Asher stood up, and despite his command, Violet's heart hammered. She knew this psycho was the reason she was at this school, and trying to leave was like slapping him in the face. How did he even know she'd come here? Had he predicted it? A chill ran down her spine. If he had, this guy was way more dangerous than she thought. Someone could read her better than she knew herself? Nope, not someone she wanted to cross. But then, anger surged. Who was he to tell her what to do? She was her own person. Leaving this school was her choice, not his. So when Asher stepped closer, towering over her, she spat. "It's none of your business if I leave or stay, you mind freak." She knew she shouldn't have insulted him. It was like throwing gasoline on a fire. But weirdly, Asher didn't seem to mind. He burst out laughing. The sound should have been creepy, but it was smooth and rich, sending shivers down her spine. "Oh, my little purple," Asher cooed, cupping her face in his hands. His touch was surprisingly warm and gentle, totally not what she'd expect from a monster. "You're so predictable," he whispered, and that made her blood run cold. What did he mean? Was he saying there was no escape? That he already knew her every move? Wait, was he in her head this whole time? Violet had no idea how his powers worked anymore. "Can you read my mind?" "No." She swallowed nervously. "Are you reading my mind right now?" Asher chuckled. "How silly to think that just because I control minds, I can read them too." She narrowed her eyes. "You said I'm predictable." "I'm skilled at mind control, which means I can figure out a lot about someone's state of mind just by watching them. It's more like guessing than actually reading thoughts." Violet flinched, remembering him cutting her hair before. She hoped he didn't have some weird hair thing. She'd probably end up bald. "It's kind of offensive, though," Asher said, pretending to be disappointed. "Assuming that just because I can control minds, I also read them? That's so bad of you, my little purple flower." He scolded her like a kid. "But don't sweat it," he continued, his voice changing. "You'll have tons of chances to learn more about me in the next." He checked his fancy watch. 20 minutes of our first date. Well, in real life, anyway. What? This wasn't a date. It was a kidnapping, plain and simple. The last thing Violet wanted was to spend another date with a stalker, manipulator, emotionless jerk, you name it. But she had no choice. If she was ever going to get out of this school, she'd have to find some way to appeal to Asher. Hopefully. So when Asher said, "You should sit," without his usual mind control thing, Violet knew it was his way of giving her a chance to behave, before he took away her choice completely. The threat was definitely still there, just hidden under fake politeness. Without a word, Violet walked over to the plush leather couch in Jameson's office and sat down. She hoped Principal Jameson would walk in any second and somehow change things. But even with that tiny sliver of hope, Violet knew better. It was becoming super clear that Jameson was just a puppet, and the Cardinal Alphas were pulling the strings. As soon as she sat, Asher followed, casually plopping down beside her. He faced her, one leg bent, acting all relaxed like they were friends about to chat, even though the air was thick with tension. "Turn towards me," he ordered like a king, expecting total obedience. Violet obeyed, but she let out a big dramatic sigh. Her little way of rebelling. Not that Asher seemed to care. As long as she did what he said, she could have been wearing a potato sack, and he wouldn't have blinked. They sat facing each other, Violet wondering what he was planning, while Asher messed with his phone. His hair fell over his forehead as he concentrated, and for some weird reason, Violet felt like brushing it aside. She shook her head. What is wrong with me? There was no way she was getting Stockholm Syndrome already. Suddenly, Asher looked up, a huge smile spreading across his face as he put his phone down. It was so unexpected and genuine, it caught her off guard. The happiness seemed real, and it almost looked good on him. He used her distraction to his advantage, grabbing her hand. So, about my powers, he murmured, holding her hand tight as she tried to pull away. His warmth was almost too much. Mind control and mind reading are two totally different things, he explained. Even though they both deal with the mind, technically it's possible to have both. If I really tried, I could learn to read minds. But honestly, it's supposed to be a total headache, and I'd like to keep what little sanity I have left. Oh, great, Violet thought. He just admitted he's not all there. Asher kept talking like they were in some messed up classroom, drawing little circles on her arm. It was weirdly soothing, but it also made her super aware of him. With mind control, he started, I can make someone do whatever I want. It's like forcing them to do things they wouldn't normally do. He paused, then added casually, for example, I could make you kiss me. Violet's whole body went stiff. She looked up at him, shocked, then disgusted. But as she stared into his weird, captivating eyes, an idea formed. Maybe this is how I can get out of this. The kiss, she said, the air suddenly feeling heavy. Is that what you want? Is that your reason for all this? Asher raised an eyebrow, surprised. Before he could answer, Violet pushed him back against the couch, leaning over him. If that's all it is, let's just get it over with. Asher stared at her, stunned, before bursting out laughing. Violet frowned. She wasn't trying to be funny. Then she felt his hand on her neck, his fingers brushing her lip, and she shivered. He stared at her lips, and her cheeks flushed. If all I wanted was a kiss, Asher finally said, I would have taken it already. And while I do like the fire in your eyes when we kiss, it won't be because you feel obligated. You won't look like you're doing me a favor. Your eyes will burn with passion, Violet, not defiance. Violet flinched, as if he'd slapped her, the force of his words hitting hard. She pulled back, letting Asher straighten up. He grinned, clearly feeling victorious. Without missing a beat, as if their intense moment had never happened, he reached for her hand again. Violet resisted, baring her teeth. Asher didn't back down, mirroring her expression with a low growl. That growl was a stark reminder that beneath Asher's human exterior lurked something primal. She hesitated, then reluctantly let him take her hand, again. As I was saying, he continued, I can give direct orders, subtly influence decisions, or totally override your choices. Violet shivered. The idea of him turning someone into a puppet was terrifying. She wondered how much he'd already messed with her mind, how many of her actions were actually his. Had he planted the idea of her Cuddler's Academy just to set up this twisted first date? No. Violet shook her head. She knew herself. She wouldn't willingly stay at the school after everything that had happened between them. This was her decision, not anyone's. However, Asher's voice cut through her thoughts. My ability depends on my willpower, my focus, and sometimes the emotional connection between me and my target. He trailed off, intertwining their fingers. It was a simple gesture, but Violet's heart raced for reasons she couldn't understand. If my target is strong-willed, they might resist, especially if they know what's happening. Asher explained, his voice almost teasing. But since you're basically a newborn, we'll be having lots of late-night dates, my purple queen. In other words, he was planning on invading her dreams. The thought was scary, but also strangely exciting. It wasn't every day a stalker hot guy invaded your dreams. No, it wasn't romantic at all. But Violet was still a girl, and the idea of a cute guy obsessed with her, even a slightly crazy one, was kind of thrilling. Why me? Violet whispered. She needed to understand. Her application had been creative, sure, but others must have caught his eye too. This time Violet didn't flinch when Asher ran his fingers through her hair. His touch was gentle, almost like a massage, and she nearly melted. She shouldn't be getting comfortable with Asher, the mind control psycho, but there was something vulnerable about the moment that drew her in. Don't you get it? Asher whispered, his eyes intense. You're my rebellion. What? My future, he corrected. Our futures are all mapped out, but you, my chosen one, will be the wrench in the gears. You'll tear them all apart, and maybe then